Good morning everybody, and a very warm welcome to you to this Liverpool John Moores PGDE interview welcome talk. My name is Camilla Cole. I'm the programme leader for the secondary programme here at Liverpool John Moores. You'll find my email address there on the screen, and Andrea Pratt is the deputy head of the programme, and you'll also see her email address there as well. So welcome to today. The aim of this morning's or today's interview welcome is to just give you an idea of the programme that we have on offer and how it's structured and how it fits together, leading you to being recommended for qualified teacher status. So the first thing I want you to think about before we begin really is to think about what's brought you to this point. Why do you want to become a teacher? Who's inspired you? Who has maybe given you an experience that was so valuable to you, you wanted to do something similar? Or was it the opposite? Was it that it was you've experienced maybe poor teaching and you want to make a better job? Or perhaps you want to make a difference to children and young people. So you have to think about what's brought you to this point, and then I'll tell you what motivates us as teacher educators here at Liverpool John Moores. Okay then. So for us at John Moores, the key thing is that we are part of a university that has a significant commitment to the civic duty that the university has in relation to the community and the people in which it resides and serves. And that therefore, of course, has a big impact on the teacher education programme. We work with a whole range of schools in a whole range of circumstances, and the motivation for us is to be making a difference to the life chances of children. And this is through kind of like a social justice, social engagement, working to raise children's aspirations and to help them become socially mobile and become the contributors to the community that they want to become. So that's who we are. And if you think that matches with who you think you would like to be as a teacher, then maybe we're the programme for you. So let me talk you through a little more about the kind of nuts and bolts of the course. Well, of course, the course leads you to qualified teacher status. And our programme is a PGDE. Now, the D stands for diploma. You may very well be more familiar with the term PGCE, the Postgraduate Certificate in Education. But ours is a PGDE, a Postgraduate Diploma in Education. And all that means is that you get more master's level credits for your 1 year programme. And I'll talk about that a bit more in a little bit more detail in a moment. So what you're really interested in is this idea of becoming a qualified teacher. And that qualified teacher status comes as a result of you having successfully completed 2 placements during the year. And the way that we do that is that we have a alternate homeschool model. So you start off in September in your homeschool, where you become familiar with how schools operate, the culture of schools, the processes and protocols and practices, and indeed the pupils of the school in which you're starting your practice in. And you'll slowly but surely go from a good deal of observation to a bit of shared teaching to a little bit of leading parts of the lesson, to eventually taking on and leading learning yourself in what we call solo lessons. And the idea of you successfully completing those placements is that all the way through the academic year you have 5 pit stops, if you like, during the year, kind of assessment points where you pause and take stock of where you're up to, and you do that with your mentor. Your mentor is the expert colleague in the department and school that you're working with. And pair of you will stop and look at what you've done, what you need to do. They'll look at the progress you've made against the expectations of the curriculum at that point and the course at that point, and kind of set some targets and work out the direction in which you need to travel. And with having 5 of these points during the academic year, it means that you'll know absolutely clearly by the time you get to the end of the academic year whether you're on to be recommended for QTS. You also have to pass relevant modules, and one of the modules is reflecting on your practice, really taking note of some of the things in your work that need further attention. So reflection in this sense is looking at a very small item of something that's happened in the classroom and really exploring it, reading around the policy related to it, reading around the literature and research related to it, talking with your expert colleague in school, giving it some really considered thought, and then a piece of writing around that area. So the module that you do this reflection around has 3 short focuses, one on classroom management, one in assessment in your subject, and one in the pedagogy of your subject. So really embedded in your own practice, and you select those areas for focus. You really decide what area of classroom management or what area of assessment you're going to look at. The other module is the module that recommends you for QTS, and that module is assessed through what we call a triangulation meeting. It's where you present your evidence to demonstrate that you've met the teacher's standards. And that meeting, that triangulation meeting, is between you, your mentor, who's the expert colleague in school that you work very closely with, and someone like me from the university who comes to visit you in school. And the 3 of us will meet at the very end of the academic year, and you will talk to us about the progress that you've made, the evidence that you have, and how all that experience leads you to meet the teacher's standards in full. And we'll ask you questions like, tell us how you have ensured that you have engaged and challenged the higher attaining pupils in your classes. And you'll go through your paperwork, you'll look at lesson plans and resources, you'll look at weekly meetings that you've had with your mentor, you'll look at the targets that you and your mentor set and how you achieve them, and you'll talk around your progress over time. So that's 2 of the modules, and those 2 modules equate to 60 master's level credits. So qualifying to teach and reflecting on your practice is 60 credits. The remaining 60 credits are in 2 other assignments, and the assignments look at these areas that are on the screen now, so that you have a critical understanding and practical application of educational theory. You're able to reflect, informing your professional development. You have research skills so that you can promote effective teaching and learning, and your subject knowledge and understanding of how children learn is enhanced. And so the 2 remaining modules, the remaining 60 credits that make up your 120 credits of masters, are again embedded in your practice, and you choose the key focus. So one of them is you design and plan a sequence of learning. We're talking about a series of lesson plans that are interconnected and focused on one concept or one area of learning. And you will design that unit of work using your understanding of educational theory, assessment, adapted learning, all the things that you've been learning about. You'll plan the sequence of learning, and you'll teach it, and then you'll evaluate it in relation to the learning and progress of 3 identified pupils in your class. The final module is a research module where you use research skills to explore a key population within the school and look at how the school enables pupils in that population to access the learning. And you'll look at a kind of case study methodology to explore the provision for those children. So that leads you to 120 master's level credits. It means then if you want to bump up that qualification in the following year to a full master's, there's a 60 credit module that we provide, I'll talk about in a moment, that enables you to do that. It's basically the dissertation element of the master's that you can then do the following year, or the year after that if you prefer. So I've talked a little bit about the placement, but let's look at the academic year in more detail. So on the left of the screen there, you've got some information. So we follow the school calendar, and whether you may remember that school calendars have things like half terms, which is a mid-term break that you'll use for writing assignments and for planning lessons. We follow a kind of induction, university learning, and then placement model, and I'll just talk about that through the infograph that's on the right-hand side of the screen. So at the top of the screen, you'll see the broad green line, and that green line indicates the time at the very beginning of the programme that you'll spend in university. That's 2 weeks in university where you will be getting ready for safe practice. So we'll look at professionalism, codes of conduct, safeguarding, child protection, all those kinds of things that make you safe going into school. We'll also start to look at some of the module work, some of the academic work that you'll be asked to complete. Then you'll see as we move into the next block, there's a fat yellow block with a green block at the end, and that indicates the working week. So for 4 days a week, in that yellow, indicated by that yellow block, those 4 days you're in school, and then in your homeschool placement, where you really get to grips with that observation, understanding the culture of school, understanding what it's like to be a teacher rather than a pupil, and recognising the expectations and responsibilities that you have within that professional context. And then on Friday, that green end to the week indicates the day that you'll spend in university. And that's a day you'll spend with subject peers and a subject specialist in your area. And you'll work on subject pedagogy and subject knowledge. And that will go on for several weeks until you come to October half term, which is the grey band there. And October half term is a week you're not in school and you're not in university. It's an opportunity for you to catch up with friends and family, but it's also a really important opportunity for you to do some academic work and some planning, because by the time you return to school in phase 2A, you'll be returning to the same school, but you'll be expected to do some solo teaching. And solo teaching we describe as the planning, teaching, assessment and evaluation of that lesson. And so during phase 2, in that pre-winter break period, you'll be in school 4 days a week again, but you'll be increasing the amount of solo teaching slowly but surely as you head towards the winter break. And at the end of every week, on a Friday, you'll return to us at the university to work with your subject peers and your subject specialist. The grey block there indicates a 2-week winter break, and that when you finish for the winter break will be determined by the school holiday in which you're placed. And then you'll come back after the winter break for that little green block. That's 1 day. You come back and just kind of reset into thinking about what this kind of term looks like. And then you'll go into what we call your alternate placement. And that's an entirely different school, and you're there for 5 days a week this time to really embed very quickly into a different context. You'll still be solo teaching, and you'll, although you won't be increasing your solo teaching, you're in a new context, and although secondary schools have some similarities, they're very different to each other. So we don't increase your solo teaching for you to give the opportunity to really understand your new context. The grey band then indicates February half term. Again, you'll not be in school and you'll not be in university, but it's a really important opportunity for you to do some university work and some planning for the next part of the term. You'll return to us for that green band, which is 2 weeks in the university, and you'll do some module work, get to grips with some of your academic work. Then you'll return to your homeschool in what we call phase 3, and that phase 3 is heading towards qualifying to teach. And for that first block, again, you'll be in school 4 days a week, you'll be increasing your solo teaching timetable quite significantly, and you'll be returning to us on a Friday for the remaining few Fridays with your subject specialist tutor and your peers. Then we'll get to spring break, that grey band, where you'll have 2 weeks off, and then you'll return to the university for another 2 weeks for some consolidation and finishing off of module work. and then you'll return to your home school for 5 days a week to really consolidate that practice in school and head towards qualification. At the very end of the home school placement, at the end of phase 3, there's a green band which indicates a week in university to tie up any loose ends and to get you looking towards your early career teaching experience and the early career framework. Now, although the course officially ends at the end of June, we ask you to keep July free. If for any reason you're not able to meet the teacher standards at the end of June, it makes sense for you to continue in placement, to extend your placement in school while the schools are still in term time. So there's generally about 3 weeks of July where schools are still in, where if you need to extend your practice, it makes sense to do it then rather than bringing you back in September, when really you should be starting in your new school as a qualified teacher, beginning your experience, beginning your career. So that's how the academic year looks. It's important to note that all that happens in the Greater Merseyside area. We're based in Liverpool city centre. If you know Liverpool, the education building is just off Hope Street, which is the road that runs between the two cathedrals in Liverpool. The reason that we want you to be in the Greater Merseyside area is because we know our schools very well. We have a relationship with them. We know the curriculum. We know the mentors. And we know the professional mentors. So someone like me from the university, I'm called a liaison tutor, and I have a responsibility for a few schools, and I look after all the students, teachers in those schools. So I'll know the subject students very well, I'll know the subject mentors very well, and I'll know the professional mentor very well. That's the senior leader who looks after all student teachers in the placement context. So if you live outside of the Greater Merseyside area, we'd be asking you either to be prepared to commute into one of our schools or move into the area so that we know that you're in a safe pair of hands. For those of you who know Liverpool, you'll be able to see that I've mentioned where our education building is, in between, just off Hope Street, which runs between Rodney Street and Hope Street. We're just kind of in a road called Maryland Street, just off there. But all your teaching and learning during your time with us at Liverpool John Moores will happen in the Mount Pleasant campus, which are these buildings that are identified on the map that you can see there. So all within a short walking distance. Okay then, we want to make sure that by the time you qualify, you're highly employable. And this means that if you're going to be a dance teacher, you'll be expected to teach them PE and performing arts. There are very, very few full-time dance posts out there. So it's really important that you get a wider experience so that you're more employable. Science teachers, you'll be expected to teach all 3 sciences at Key Stage 3, but will be qualified in your own subject because that's where you'll specialise in Key Stage 4. Humanities will have the opportunity to teach another humanities subject other than their subject specialism. We're finding more and more job adverts out there are asking for humanities teachers rather than individual subject teachers. And design technology, you'll be expected to teach beyond your specialist area to include all areas of the D&T curriculum. Okay, so I've already mentioned a few people. Those expert members of staff in school tend to be called mentors, and those members of staff associated with the university we tend to call tutors. So for you as a student teacher, you have your mentors in school and your tutors in university, and those tutors to university come to visit school, you in school. So it's a very linked up practice between you, your school and the university. So school know what's going on at the university and the university knows what's going on in school, and it makes for a very secure placement experience, we'll be the ones who come in and see you in school. You'll of course have lectures and workshops and seminars here at the university to give you the foundations for practice to understand and make good decisions about your own practice on your placement in school. You'll have 6 tutorials here at the university tailored to linking the school and university practice together, and you'll have obviously your subject specific time, a lot of that time with your subject mentors and your peers in school, developing your subject knowledge and enabling you to be quite independent on developing that in relation to the target setting that you set. So why LJMU? There are lots of reasons on the screen there. We've got a commitment to a partnership with local schools and colleges. We have a placement model, home alternate home model, which provides consistency of mentoring and qualifying. We've got highly experienced staff here at the university and in school with national reputations and influence in their field. We've got an established reputation. We've got excellent student satisfaction. Every year, Ofsted send out a survey to our student teachers, and we normally get the data around this time. I'm recording this in October, and we'd normally get the feedback by now, but we haven't had it yet. So we're waiting for that, but our data is always very good, and it was excellent in the previous year, and we're confident it'll be again. We provide a supportive learning environment, and of course we're value for money. If you want to take a full Masters or complete the full Masters, you can do the short course after the PGDE, a Masters in Education Practice. So you do it quicker, and therefore it's cheaper. So you could search for LJMU Masters in Education Practice for more information. I think the overwhelming thing though for me, as someone who works at LJMU with the teams, both at university and in school, is that everybody is working really hard to ensure your success. They're good-humoured, good-natured, they go above and beyond, and they'll work really hard with you and for you to really support you in becoming the best teacher that you can be. So I think it's the staff that make it, and I have to say I never go home after a day at work and not having laughed with colleagues in school and in the university. So good-hearted people to have around you is really important because it's a challenging course. Okay, potential conditions of offer. I know some universities say there are no conditions, but there are. All universities have to have certain conditions. The first one, of course, is references. You've been able to submit your DFE application without having secured your references yet. So, of course, we're going to be looking for positive references in order to, as one of your conditions of offer. Of course, as well, there'll be an enhanced disclosure and barring service check, a DBS. And we would strongly advise that you get that DBS check underway very, very quickly. If you leave it till August, it'll be very slow coming through, because every student teacher, student nurse, student doctor, student probation officer, student social worker will all be trying to get their DBSs through at the same time for a September start. So as soon as you've got confirmation of an offer and your the admissions team say that it's time to get started on your DBS, we strongly recommend you do that straight away, because once we start in September, you only have 2 weeks to complete your conditions if you haven't completed them already. And if you haven't completed those conditions within those 2 weeks, you will not be able to register. So if you leave your DBS too long and it's taking a long time to process, you will not be able to take up your offer. Okay? It's really important. The other condition of offer is a health clearance. It's a health questionnaire that you're asked to complete that's looked at by the occupational health team here. Other conditions might be your GCSE English language or maths grade. If you haven't got those already, we'd strongly advise you to get those underway as quickly as possible. Even if you do have your English and maths, can I encourage you to go and find those certificates? And if you can't find them, again, put in for a very early request to the exam boards to get those reissued. Again, if you don't have those within the first 2 weeks of the programme in September, you will not be able to take up your offer here at Liverpool John Moores. And finally, some of you may be asked to do a subject knowledge enhancement course, and we'll talk about that individually to you during your individual interviews. So what happens next? If you're successful, we'll let you know as soon as possible. It's generally within 2 working days, but we generally interview on a Thursday, and working days means it might be on the Monday, but keep an eye on DFE Apply for that offer no later than the following Monday. A word to our PE candidates. The Department for Education, the DfE, will close courses once a national target has been reached. So if you're made an offer, whether it's with us or any other university, and you feel able to accept it quickly, we'd really advise that you do that. Because if you hang around waiting, it may be that the DfE closes the courses and you can no longer accept that place. So if you feel able to make a quick decision, we'd really encourage you to do so. We have target numbers for each subject based on the number of placements that we secure with our partnership schools, and therefore we have a maximum number of offers that we can make. So if you are made an offer, again, we'd ask you to make a decision as quickly as possible so that we know whether we've got any places left to interview anybody else in the coming weeks. And once you firm with us, we'll be in touch with you. A little bit later, we'll set some targets for you, because we want you to be prepared for a successful start in September. Everybody's going to need to do some work before they come to us in September, particularly around understanding their subject curriculum. If you're not successful on interview day with us, then you'll be given some feedback and given some guidance about what you need to do in order to have a successful application next time. Okay, the government has released the bursaries for 2022, 23, 24, and you can see them on the screen there. In order to be eligible, you need to have a first class 2-1, 2-2, PhD or Masters, and they are the only subjects on screen at the moment that attract a bursary. If your subject is not on the screen, there are no government bursaries. You can search for initial teacher training bursaries 2023 online and get the finer details if you want to. But those subjects are the only ones that attract a bursary for the academic year of 2023-24. Okay. I think that's it from me. Any questions that you have, please take them to your individual interview. You'll go into a general Zoom room with the admission staff who'll be able to answer any of your questions that may have arisen from this presentation. And if there's still anything else, when you go into your individual interviews with a member of the academic staff, you'll be able to ask them 1 or 2 questions. But remember, your interview slot is for half an hour, and we'll need to keep to that timing quite strictly. You may have written down my email address from the beginning of this presentation, and if there are any questions remaining by the end of your interview that you weren't able to ask or didn't think of until the end, do drop me an email and I'll try my very best to answer them or direct you to somebody who can answer them. Okay then, so the very best of luck for your interview. Remember that you need to draw on any experience that you have in working with children and young people, and that you need to draw on your understanding of the curriculum that you want to teach. Okay, I hope it goes well. We look forward to welcoming many of you to the programme in September 2023. Bye-bye.